Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUWFC. Today I'm joined by Matt. How are you keeping, Matt?
Yeah, not so bad, Matt. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. No Natalie today, guys, so I'm sorry about that. She's preoccupied doing something else, Manchester United orientated, but I'm sure she'll be back next week. Look, there's plenty to talk about today. The idea of the show is to talk about the 3 games in six days that we're in the middle of at the moment. Obviously, some breaking news today as well on Sky Sports, which is music to the ears of women's team supporters. But before we go through all that, Matt, just a little bit about yourself. Obviously, a member of the Barmy Army, study journalism, do a bit of work behind the scenes on the Barmy Army. Hello, John. Thank you for joining us, mate. Hope you're keeping well. Matt, just tell us a bit about yourself.
So, yeah, as you say, I'm currently at uni studying at UI92, which, you know, some people watching may have heard was the uni that was set up by the class of 92. Got our campus just next to Old Trafford Cricket Ground, so it's nice and local. And yeah, I'm in my second year studying journalism. So getting on for halfway through my first module of second year, and you say this season I've been doing some writing for the Barmy Army, which has been great. Doing match previews and match reports for each of our games this season, which obviously helps them out and is invaluable experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the great thing about social media and fan channels and fan clubs and everything. It is great experience to like get yourself not only noticed, but just a bit of experience for yourself as well, isn't it? So it is good and it's fun. It's a hobby for us as well, isn't it? It's not. I don't see it as a job or anything like that. It is purely just a bit of a hobby for me and something that I enjoy doing, whether it be writing or on YouTube, chatting to other United supporters. Hello, Callum, in the comments. Thank you for joining in. So regarding the Barmy Army, how long have you known them? Was you there on the first season as well, or did you join on the second season?
I wasn't. No, I was actually living on the south coast at the time, which is where I'm originally from. So yeah, not entirely easy following the team. I was kind of reliant on members of the Barmy Army on Twitter. I was like trying to stay up to date. Because obviously, in the championship, we didn't have the FA player then. So yeah, just kind of relying on social media. But yeah, as the season went on, I was following the team and got to know a few of the members a bit. I moved up to Manchester September last year when I started uni. Joined the Barmy Army as an official member then. Got myself a season ticket and yeah, been a member ever since. Obviously going home and away when we've been allowed to, and it's been great.
Yeah. And just before we get onto the subject, just a little bit of just a question really regarding the journalism kind of thing, because obviously I do a little bit myself. I'm not qualified or anything. I don't claim to be, but I do write a few articles myself. How exciting has it been doing the match previews for the Barmy Army this season? Because if you're trying to predict the starting 11 or how it's going to go, it's almost impossible, isn't it, at the moment, the abundance of players that we've got to choose from?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a good problem to have, but also, they seem to be a bit secretive in women's football when players are injured or whatever. I know the Brighton game last weekend, a lot of people were surprised not to see Honor in the starting lineup because she'd been absolutely fantastic for her first couple of games. And then all of a sudden she's not in the side. And everyone's thinking, what's going on? Where's Honor? And we later find out that she's injured.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that also makes it a bit difficult. But, yeah, I think once we do eventually get everyone fit, it'll be a good selection headache for Casey to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, John. Thanks for joining in, mate. Okay, so let's start off with the news that I saw this morning. There's rumours about it on a few group chats that we're in, but Sky Sports, I think I saw it on. T-shirt sales or jersey sales, as it was called, Preston Heath outsold any male player when they signed. Massive, absolutely massive, and it just shows how big US players are, how big obviously our club is. So if you can combine the enormity of of US football compared and then join Man United, it's absolutely huge, isn't it? I mean, did that surprise you at all? That amount of fan base that Preston Heath brought to Manchester United?
To a point. I mean, you certainly don't expect them to, outsell sales of the men's team. But I think what people that don't necessarily know much about women's football or the US team might not appreciate is just how big these two names are that we've signed. Between the two of them, they've played over 300 times for the US. And I think it's a real indicator of just, how big names they are. I mean, I have to say it's also, a bit of a shot on the arm for those that say, "Oh, nobody cares about women's football." Well, they clearly do. Yeah, it's fantastic to see, that level of support behind the women's team as well.
Yeah, and if you have a look at all the socials or the tweets, and you might have seen it yourself, you get the most activity whenever you mention Preston Heath, don't you? And obviously, it's a shame for our current players who've got us to this stage, and we still love them more so, maybe, because obviously we've got that loyalty to the players who's been with us for 2 or 3 seasons. But it just shows, if you get back-to-back World Cup winners and 2 of them in your team who are not only World Cup winners, but they're exciting players, they're goal scorers, they're creators. If you get them in your team, people are going to take notice, aren't they? Just regarding how good they are, how do you think that they've started with United at the moment in their first couple of games?
Which isn't really a surprise when you consider that at the time we signed them, they hadn't actually played since March. The Sheba Leagues Cup was the last football they played. So inevitably, they're going to need time to ease themselves in, get to know their teammates, get to know the way they're going to fit into United's system. And, similarly, get up to match fitness again, because I think there's a big difference between fitness and match fitness. Their fitness levels are clearly very good, but in terms of match fitness, that is inevitably going to take time. So, yeah, I think that they've done okay, but, I don't think we can really draw too many conclusions from what we've seen of them as United players just yet.
Yeah, that's understandable, and you're right, it is all about match fitness, and you've got to get used to playing with the teammates as well, get that fluidity in them. And I think Casey's done well bringing them in gradually, and that brings on to my question, really, my first question, in regards to how do you think it was the right starting lineup against Brighton? I think it was pretty much the way I expected. I was reading it out to you. So Brighton on Sunday, WSL game, an important game. Obviously, the new starters were all eligible to start. We had Earps in goal. That's okay. Ona wasn't able to play, so we had Turner, Abbey, Millie, and Smith at the back. Hayley Ladd as a CDM. Jackie and Tooney in the midfield. And then we had Russo, Galton and Hansen. Obviously, we could have played Ross. We could have played Tobin Heath. Do you think that was the right decision at the time for Casey to start with that starting 11?
I do, yeah. I don't think, obviously everyone's excited to see Tobin and Kristen. Of course they are. I think certain people particularly excited to see them. I'm sure Amber was actually buzzing to see Kristen. But as I was saying, they'd only just come out of quarantine, really. But also, I spoke about the fact that we heard that Honor was injured. She was one of 7 players that we had unavailable for that game. We had 6 injuries, and also Katie had been in quarantine. I'm not sure if she'd actually come out of quarantine by that point, but she was still, not quite ready to return. John Fry's just saying in the comments, it was our best 11 at the time.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I would have to agree with that. I think that was the best 11 that we had available.
Yeah, the show that we did with Natalie last week and Matt and the week before as well, we were saying how well Tooney and Hanson have been playing this season, and there was unblockable. We were saying, and I agree with that. I think it would be very unfair to drop Hanson or Galton for potentially unmatch fit Tommy Heath or Christian Press. So I think Casey got that right. Tommy Heath came on after about 70 minutes and Press came on after about 80 minutes, just to give them a bit of a run out. And then I predicted that maybe they would start in the Conti Cup game. One of them did, one of them didn't. But let's talk about that Brighton win. I mean, obviously, I went in there confident. Matt, I'm sure you went in there confident as well. Would you have predicted a 3-0 or something slightly different?
Yeah, I would, because bear in mind, when we played them at LSV last season, we beat them 4-0, which is actually our biggest home league win. So, yeah, I was certainly confident. The reverse game was a bit more disappointing during 1-0, but I think, no disrespect to Brighton, it's actually the nearest city to where I'm from. But I think if we're going to have any aspirations of, challenging the top three, those are the kind of games that we have to win, because that's what those top three teams do. So yeah, I was certainly confident that we'd get the win as we did.
Yeah, I think coming off the back of the Chelsea draw and the Birmingham 5-2 win, I think it's hard to. You don't want to take anything for granted, and the Conti Cup game almost might prove that as well. But
yeah,
you have to go into that Brighton game with belief, don't you? And we had that belief, and I think we played brilliantly in that game. Still areas of improvement, but to win a game 3-0, it was very dominant. I was really impressed with Ella Toon, how she managed to find space between the midfielders, the opposing midfielders and defenders. She was finding a lot of gaps, and she scored the first goal with a penalty. Obviously, now Katie on the pitch, so Ella stepped up. And how do you think Ella's season's going so far?
Yeah, I think she's played really well. And I said a few times last season that I feel like she deserved to start more than she did. Most games she tended to come off the bench, but whenever she came on, she always played really well. And I think she's kind of proving the point this season that she's been given her opportunity from the start, and she's been grabbing it with both hands. I don't think she was at her best yesterday, as I'm sure we'll get on to in a bit, but I think you could say that about basically everyone. But yeah, overall, I think Tooney's really showing the qualities that we've got, which is, of course, earned her senior England recognition as well. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and I was chatting on this show just a couple of weeks ago, I think, and talking about our number 10 position, and I left Lucy Stanforth out, and just because I just wanted to put 3 in there, to be honest, and we hadn't seen much of Lucy. Well, we didn't see anything of Lucy at the time, but it appears at the moment that Lucy Stanforth is Casey's kind of second choice number 10 kind of role. She's coming on as a sub in that position. But yeah, for me, Tooney has to carry on playing until she's not in form, to be honest. And that means if that's at the expense of Jackie, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm one of Jackie's biggest fans. But you've got to play the players on form. Of course, Jackie is on form as well, so I think it's kind of worked in their interest with Katie being out, as obviously as unfortunate as that is. But at least then it's kind of made the selection choice a little bit easier for Casey. Where do you see Tooney going for the rest of the season? Do you think this is just is she just getting game time until Stanforth is fully fit, or until LJ is fit, or can you see her maybe playing the majority of the season?
No, I think if she carries on the way she's playing, I see no reason not to start. And John saying, one criticism of Tooney is that she sometimes shoots instead of looking for a pass.
Yeah.
To be honest, you mentioned LJ just now, and I could say the same thing about her, to be honest. We all know just how good LJ is and how good she could be, but there are times, well, with her as well, I feel like, she seems too eager to maybe run into the box or shoot, and perhaps, passing would be the better option. But yeah, I think as long as Tierney's on form and she stays fit, I see no reason not to keep selecting her. I think a certain amount of squad rotation is necessary. I think we would have probably seen more this week than we have if we were able to. But yeah, she's been fantastic so far.
Yeah, I was surprised Tierney started the Conti Cup game. To be honest, I think obviously if Lucy was maybe fully fit, or I'm not sure the reason behind it, but because Tierney's played so well this season so far, it makes me think that she's Casey's one of her first choices. So to play on the Sunday, the Wednesday, and then potentially the Sunday again, I was thinking maybe that Conti Cup game she could have been rested and put Lucy in from the start. Either way, it doesn't matter too much there.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we only saw, I think it was 2 or 3 changes from that Conti Cup game. But I think I'm right in saying that the only difference in terms of player availability between the 2 games was that yesterday Katie was back in the match day squad. I think the 6 players that we had out injured for the Brighton game were still all out injured for Liverpool. So I think in the past we've seen Casey make pretty much wholesale changes for Conti Cup games, and I'm sure, if she had have been able to, she probably would have made more changes than just a couple. But her hands were tied a bit in that respect with having so many players out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the defence picked itself in that Liverpool game, and we'll talk about it in a second. But the Brighton game, so obviously we went 1-0 up. In my opinion, Tierney was really bossing that game. She had so much time on the ball, as someone in the comments or yourself mentioned. Yeah, she does maybe take a few too many shots instead of passing. But you know what? If there's a midfielder that you want to score a goal, you give it to Ella, wouldn't you? Because I think she's probably one of our best goal scoring options from midfield.
Definitely.
There was another goal scorer, but there was 2 more goal scorers. Russo. I've been really impressed with how she's settled in, how powerful she's on the ball, running with the ball, pressing. Great goal as well. Can you remember that goal, Matt? Obviously, there's been a few goals since that game, but yeah, can you remember that goal where she picked it up and made that driving run?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I've been really impressed with Russo. It's her first season as a professional. I think it's quite easy to forget that when we signed her, it was her first pro contract fresh out of college, but she's already been in the senior England squad even while she was still at college in America. And I think you don't get that kind of recognition at that point in your career without being pretty special. And we're already seeing the talent she's got. I know LJ's the sort of young player that everyone talks about, but Russo's a player that really excites me. I think she's looked fantastic. We've just been talking about Tierney. I think the link up between those 2 has been fantastic so far. They obviously know each other from the England youth setup or whatever. But yeah, I think she's been fantastic, and I can't wait to see how she develops at United.
Yeah, we spent the first couple of weeks ranting about, in a positive way, about how well Ona has fitted in. But I think since Russo has been getting her game time, I have been really impressed. And before she came to United, I've done my bit of research on her, and you see that word versatility. You see that she can play on the wide areas or up front. You can see that, can't you? I mean, in the Liverpool match, I think she started out wide, but she's constantly moving around, wanting to get onto that ball. And she's still young, and she does feel like a Manchester United player. And eventually, when pressing Heath, move on, and maybe Jane Ross at some point. Surely Russo is going to be our future. I could be eating my words. Maybe she won't have much game time this season and whatever. But from what I've seen of her at the moment, it's really exciting. Her, LJ, Tooney, that young blood there. It's great, isn't it? And the goal itself, a real strong run. Galton had a similar effort just before that as well, I believe, on that left-hand side, and Galton just put hers wide. But Russo scored on her first full debut. And then the third goal, Tobin Heath with the assist for Jane Ross. What do you think of that combination?
Yeah, I think it's great to see, Tobin already actively involved. I'm sure, I know if Jake's watching, I'm sure he was particularly delighted with that one. It's Jane Ross's biggest fan. But yeah, just saying, closing down, she does our team's defend its hard work, makes it look easy. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I know we've seen a few goals in the opening few games where, we've had balls in from the wide areas that have been finished off from close range. And, I think we're seeing different types of goals, which is always really encouraging, and from a lot of different players, which is great. It suggests that, whoever we put in those attacking areas will create chances and will finish them off. And I think that's one thing that I think we had a real problem with last season. We were creating chances, but there were times when we were a bit wasteful. But if we can be a bit more clinical, which we seem to be being for the most part so far this season, then that's really encouraging to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I think going back to Tobin Heath there, someone in the comments mentioned it as well. I think it might have been John. Says that Tobin seems a bit more fitter than Press at the moment, and I think that's right. I know we saw Press with a fantastic run against Liverpool and just didn't quite get that goal when she broke through past them two defenders. But for me, I have been impressed with Tobin, and she's not even a full speed yet. There's a comment on the screen right now: Press and Heath on the wings and Russo at number 9. I like that as well. Not that I want to actually leave Galton and Hansen just yet. I want Press and Heath to be fully fit if they're going to take Hansen and Galton out the team for those. But I do like that combination. I do like the fact that Press needs to be on the ball more. And when she plays at number 9, if you can't get that ball, then she's almost wasted. The talents are wasted. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that at some point. Press and Heath with Russo at number 9. How about yourself? Would you like to see that combination, Matt? I think we've lost his connection there. Can you hear me, Matt? You might need to come out and come back in again. In the meantime, guys, I'll just read out a few more comments. Oh, sorry, mate. Can you hear me okay? Okay, your screen's froze, but I can hear you slightly. Okay, we'll see if you can come back shortly. Yeah.
Experiences they are.
Oh, okay, we'll carry on talking anyway. I'm sure Matt will come back shortly. Yeah, so yeah, hopefully we can get him back shortly. Yeah, it was a bit of a bad connection there. He was starting to break up a little bit, so I'm sure we can get him back shortly. Yeah, so thank you in the comments, Brown Knight. Thank you for coming back after last week as well. Immortal Joker, nice to see you back in the comments as well. Yeah, I'm upset about yesterday's results as well. It's wasn't great, was it? Especially with the high that we had from Brighton. Let's see if we can get him back in the room here. You okay, Matt? Can you hear me okay, Matt?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that's better. Sorry, mate. You did break up there, but I tried to carry on without you for a little bit. Just a few comments I'll read out, and then we'll get back into that Conti Cup game after the 3-0 win that we just had against Brighton. Brown Knight, what did we miss? Basically, we're just talking about the shirt sales. Press and Heath outselling the men's team. Absolutely brilliant. That was announced on Sky Sports today and all across the news channels. Press led the US team in assists last year, and the crosses was really good. Yeah, absolutely. And we know the Press can play out wide. We were just talking about that, so maybe maybe that could be a good combination there with Heath or Galton and Hanson on the wings and Russo up front. Press doesn't need to play up front. 15 watt, yeah, absolutely, guys. Smash a like. This is obviously more of a male orientated men's team channel, but we are trying to promote the women's team as well. So thank you for everybody who's tuning in. This has been going on for 4 weeks now, so we do a weekly show every Thursday or Friday. It's Thursday at the moment. So yeah, come and join us every Thursday evening if you want to catch up about our women's team. So let's move on to the Conti Cup game then. So obviously we had a great start. Like I say, we had Chelsea, good result against Chelsea, the champions, drawing, win against Birmingham, a fantastic win against Brighton. You come up against Liverpool in a league lower than us, Conti Cup. First of all, Matt, just explain to the people who are watching who don't know much about women's football. What's the rules about the Conti Cup? Because it's not just an ordinary cup knockout tournament, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of an unusual one. I've heard it described as women's football's Marmite competition. I suppose for those that watch men's football, you could say in terms of stature, it's sort of the women's equivalent of the Carabao Cup. But rather than straight knockout all the way through, it starts off as a group stage. They've actually tweaked the format slightly this year. Normally there's 4 groups. There's 3 groups of 6, 1 group of 5, because there's an odd number in the championship. But this year they've got 5 groups of 4, 1 group of 3. So the 6 and the 2 best runners up go through, and you have Women's Super League and Women's Championship teams in each group. And the group that we're in this season is a pretty tough one. We've got Liverpool, who we played yesterday, and Everton and Man City, the other 2 sides in our group. Yeah,
and they are very tough, aren't they? Obviously, Everton started off the season amazingly well, men's and women's team. City, 7 points in the WSL so far. Now, City aren't playing absolutely brilliant at the moment, but they are still picking up points and picking up wins, and they won Everton in their game yesterday where we lost against Liverpool. So, City have got off to a good start. We do need to top the table, as we were saying. We do need to top the table to get through to the next round, unless if we get through as one of the lucky best runners up. Going into that Liverpool game, obviously you don't want to take things for granted, but we all make predictions and think if we can win this game, we can afford to draw against City perhaps. But it didn't quite go to plan, did it? I mean, where do you think it went wrong? Because that game for me was completely different to the other 3 games.
Yeah.
There's no creativity there, in my opinion. No kind of urgency. No, I don't know what went wrong. Was there just too many changes, or I don't know, Matt? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I completely agree with you that there seems to be no urgency, which is a real concern for me. Playing a United Liverpool game. Obviously, rivalries are a bit of a sore subject in the women's game. You don't quite get the same tribalism, if you like, that you do in the men's. But I think within, United's fans and the Barmy Army particularly, we do still feel those rivalries, and particularly coming against Liverpool. Obviously, if there's one team you want to beat, whatever game, whatever competition, it is Liverpool. And, as you mentioned yourself, they're in the league below, they're in the championship, and, you should certainly be looking to win. And when you look at the group as a whole, this was going to be our most winnable game.
Mhm.
I don't think you exactly say easiest. There's no such thing as easy game, but yeah, we would certainly have been looking to win this one and make it a bit easier for ourselves going forward. So yeah, I just hugely disappointing all round. One thing I did say on my own channel after the Brighton game is that I don't feel like we've put in a good 90-minute performance yet this season. Like in each game, we've had periods where we've played well, but haven't really played well across the whole game. And we've kind of got away with it a bit against Birmingham and Brighton. But against Liverpool, they clearly had the motivation which we, for whatever reason, lacked. And I think that really cost us. Sky, I felt in the comments there saying they were playing like individuals and not a team. And yeah, that was something that Fiona said on the watch along that we did during the game. You know, she said that they played like 11 players who had never met each other, considering that it was virtually the same team that played, 3 days earlier. It's pretty concerning.
Yeah, I agree with that comment. I really did. Like I said, that fluidity wasn't there, and the link-up players wasn't there. I think there was a couple of instances in the first half where Russo and Toby and Heath and Kirsty Smith was linking up on that left-hand side when Russo went over there to look for the ball. I think there was a few passages of play, but you can't really talk about it because it never led to anything, and that was just a couple of instances that did happen. Reaper mentioned, do you think subbing off Ladd yesterday changed the mentality of the squad? No offence to Amy Turner, but Ladd should have had the armband. I just think with that one, Ladd could quite easily be a captain, but Amy Turner is the deputy, isn't she? And I think with Amy Turner on the pitch, I just think that you have to kind of give the deputy the armband, and obviously she's really well respected around the team. And if anyone wants to learn a bit more about Amy Turner, by the way, there was an amazing podcast about 6 weeks ago, 4 to 6 weeks ago. I think it was on MUTV. It was definitely on the app. It lasts about an hour, but if you want to start learning about our players, that is one of the best podcasts I've heard. You listen to Amy Turner's story from when she was like growing up in the women's game, and where she had to, the troubles that I guess she had and the setbacks that she had, and now she see her playing at Man United, one of the biggest teams, and potentially going on to be one of the elites in women's football. That's a great podcast, guys. So as for the game itself, obviously we got off to a great start. One centre back passing to the other centre back, and centre back with the assist, and a centre back with a goal. How comical was that? How comical was that goal, Matt?
Yeah, it wasn't exact. I don't think it's exactly going to be a contender for goal of the month, in all honesty. But they all count. However it comes. As long as it ends up in the back of the net, that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think one thing that I've always said about our centre backs, it doesn't matter who it is, they need to score more. They need to put themselves in their positions. And Russo's corner, obviously, she went quite deep. Millie Turner was there, got a shot away, obviously landed on Abby McManus's head, and it was a good header. I mean, it was a thunderbolt header. Absolutely deserved that goal. And then you start to think that, okay, we're on to a winner here now, but it didn't quite end up that way, did it? Comments about we should have had a penalty, but unfortunately, it was Liverpool who had their 2 penalties. Matt, I mean, what can you remember about their penalties?
Yeah, the first one, I think obviously the current handball law is something that's been a major talking point, in the early weeks of the season, particularly in the Premier League. We're seeing a lot of penalties given that perhaps wouldn't have been in the past. I think I've seen a couple of other people saying that we should have had a penalty ourselves for, Toby and being pulled down. I think there was a potential handball shot we had against us. So I think that one was probably a little bit harsh, in all honesty. I don't think there was really anything that Jane could have done about that one. You know, I certainly didn't think her arm was in an unnatural position or whatever. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it's just down to sort of the current interpretation of the way the rule is. You know, if that had been given in our favour, I'm sure we would have been giving it the banter on Twitter. But on that occasion, it went against us. The second one, I think the most disappointing thing about the second one was the fact that it was Millie Turner that gave it away. No, I mean, it was a penalty all day long. Nobody can dispute that. But I've described Millie before as the first name on the team sheet. You know, she's normally an absolute rock at the back, and it was it was a bit silly from her, and you know, not the kind of thing you normally expect from her. But yeah, that was definitely a penalty, that one.
The thing is, I could see it coming as well, because obviously Millie either got fouled off the ball or shoved off the ball, and then you could see Millie wasn't very happy about it and just lunged in, and that was just a rush of blood. And
yeah, you could see they were just outside the box, and they were both, you know, grappling with each other a bit, and it sort of carried on into the box. Thinking, yeah, we're in trouble there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rambo did get close. She did dive the right way, but it was a good penalty. And then you go 2-1 down. I thought Casey took the best three players off at half time. John Neville says, I agree with that. I do, and I think she must have had Tottenham in mind. She must have either Tottenham in mind or prioritising getting other players on the pitch to get minutes. Or what do you think about the substitutions, Matt?
I think they're obviously quite defensive-minded substitutions. I can't remember whether it was 2-1 or 3-1 at the time. You know, all five came fairly close to each other. I know we had a triple substitution at once. I think at the time those changes were made, we were getting overrun. You know, Liverpool were dominating the game, really beginning to assert themselves. So I think maybe, you know, Casey was thinking we needed to be more solid, and I think maybe that was why she made the changes that she made. Possibly there was, you know, the weekend's game in mind, as we've said already. You know, when you've got 3 games in 7 days, I think there's always going to be a part of you that's got that next game in mind. So, you know, maybe that was a factor as well. I've seen somebody comment on, you know, the set pieces. Tobin presses them, taking corners and set pieces until Russo learns the intricacies. Yeah, I have to say, obviously, normally Katie would be the one taking the free kicks and the penalties, most of the corners. But unfortunately, you know, she wasn't there for most of the game. Yeah, I've already spoken in pretty glowing terms about Russo on this video, but I said on Twitter at the time, Russo's got many qualities, but set pieces aren't one of them. Yeah, we were poor from those situations. In all of them.
Yeah, and I just think it was poor pretty much all over. Obviously, Preston Zellum did come on with 10 minutes to go, about 10 or 20 minutes ago, I can't remember now. And yeah, Press did go for that run. You know, she managed to get the ball. She had 2 defenders around her, just outside the box, managed to run in the box, get a shot away that was, I think, was either blocked or saved. But apart from that, there wasn't much. I just don't think there was much spark. There wasn't that creativity there. Matt, you mentioned it earlier. I agree with you. We've got creativity now all across that final third. It doesn't matter. We could pick about 8 to 9 players across that final front there. The defence is third, and for some reason we just couldn't break them down, could we? And you know, credit to Liverpool, they did defend well, but we should have played better throughout the whole match, and that was very disappointing to see us lose after. We shouldn't have lost. We shouldn't have gone. We shouldn't have had that game and lose the way that we did. Do you reckon we can bounce back in the rest of the Conti Cup games? City. Well, we've got Everton first, and then City. Surely we need 6 points.
I think so. Yeah, I think It was a tied by penalty. Yeah, that's fair. I think I completely agree that the performance was unacceptable, and we all know what prophecy is. I said a few words in the dressing room after the game that we can't repeat on this channel. But I think the important thing is that we don't fall into the typical football fan trap of thinking, all of a sudden, the season's a write-off because we've had one bad result. I think we can definitely back. We've got a good record against Everton. As you quite rightly said yourself, they have been very impressive at the start of this season. I think Everton fans that follow both the men and women probably think they're dreaming this season. Well, they started, but we've got a good record against them, and we showed in this competition last season that we can beat City. And I think also, we had the draw against Chelsea to start off the season, so we know that we can get those results in those big games because we've done it on 2 separate occasions now. It does mean that there's no real margin for error with the remaining 2 games, but I think we've definitely got it in us to bounce back and progress. I think one thing that we do need to factor in, and I don't want to make any excuses because I don't think you can, but when the season started, none of our players had actually played for 6-7 months, and even when they eventually came back, we had 2 weeks where we had games, and then we had another 3 weeks where we didn't have a game before Brighton. So I like to call it feast or famine a bit, and when you have a situation like that, it's impossible to build up any real momentum. So I think that could perhaps be a reason why we've seen a few disjointed performances early on. I think, the performances will come. It's still early days in the season, and we are in a pretty good position in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just touching on that point that you made there was a lot of breaks last season with the bad weather and international duty and Christmas break, and we found it very difficult to kind of manage that as well, didn't we? So I do agree with that. I do think that obviously that momentum does help, game every week as opposed to having like a 3-week break and then all of a sudden 3 games together. And I do agree with that. And we can absolutely, of course, we can bounce back on this. And I'm glad that loss happened in the Cup as opposed to the WSL because it doesn't mean too much. But obviously, when it comes to the Conti Cup now, we all want to see us get to a cup final this season, as that would be a progression. It just makes this Conti Cup a lot more difficult now. But we definitely know that we can go to any team in the WSL, and in the WSL team, we can go to any game and go in and win that game, or at least get a point from it. We beat City last season in the same cup. We know that we can beat Everton. So I do think that the players can go to Everton and City and feel comfortable about winning. Of course, like you said, there is no margin for error, is there? And the final goal that they scored, just another set piece, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know who could have been defending the players. I can't even remember who scored for them now. But it was just disappointing all round. I don't think Liverpool actually attacked us that well. They just took the chances, didn't they? Whereas we didn't.
No, absolutely. It was a very disappointing goal to concede. Casey being a former defender herself, I'm sure she would have been, very disappointed to see us concede a goal like that. But it wasn't even really any great skill on Liverpool's part. It was sloppiness from us that was punished.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So obviously, I was like right up here. Well, you can't quite see on the video there. Quite up here. It was going really high, and then obviously we did plummet with that Liverpool game. Tottenham next in the WSL. I think we can shake that defeat off quite easily. Thankfully, like I say, it wasn't a WSL game, so it's got no bearing on the league or anything like that. And sometimes you need that wake-up call, don't you? You know, if we was in the ground in that Liverpool game, we would have been shouting to them, wake up, do something, get your heads into gear, and that's putting it politely. So I'm sure Casey's rattled them, and they would have been rattled themselves. You know, they would have seen on social media, and they would have seen the performances back, and they'll know everything anyway. So a part of me is thinking I'd hate to be Spurs right now because it's like that wounded animal, isn't it? So long as whoever Casey picks is fit, then I'm sure that will come out guns blazing. Any predictions regarding the starting lineup now that we've seen a lot of rotation and we've seen players get match sharpness? Any thoughts? I'll start. Mary Earps at the back.
Yeah, I think obviously Mary will come back in goal. I can't, very much the cup keeper. I think it does do us a big favour that we've got another game coming up so quickly. You know, there's only 3 days between games. And I think when you're coming off the back of the fit, it means that they will have already today put yesterday to the back of their minds and started switching the focus to the Spurs game. So I think that has actually worked out really well for us in that respect. I think, we'll definitely look into reaction. One thing I did notice looking at the table is that with us playing on Saturday before everyone else, if we beat Spurs, we would actually go top of the table. I don't know if the players will actually be aware of that, but I mean, Spurs that we know well. Obviously, we were promoted together from the Championship. We've got excellent records. Apparently, they've got some new forward that they've recently signed. I don't know if you heard anything about them. I don't know if she's actually going to play. I feel, the players will definitely, want to bounce back and show a reaction to that game. I think in terms of change, it's very much dependent on who's actually available. You know, if players that have missed out in the last couple of games do come back, I think because again, they won't have played since February, in the most part. Again, if possible, it wouldn't surprise me if we did see 1 or 2 changes. Like we've both already said, health permitting, I'd love to see Casey return to the starting lineup. It's very nice.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Katie, so I think it'd be great to see her back in the middle of the park. But obviously, the primary concern there is her health if she's, feeling able to start. But I think it really depends on who's actually available and how different player availability is from yesterday as to what changes Casey's actually able to make.
Fitness is a big part of it, because obviously if Onu's fit, then I think she will probably come straight back into the side. But I agree with every name that John Fry's put on here. So I'm going to just put these back up on here. Mary, Amy, Abby, Millie, and Kirsty. That's providing Ona isn't fit. I'm going to go with Hayley, Jackie, and Ella as well. Obviously, we don't know, only because we don't know the Katie situation, but Hayley obviously needs to play.
And I think, Jackie and Ella have both played really well, in the league game so far. Is Tobin Russo, Kirsty H up front. I'd be happy. That wouldn't at all surprise me if we see Heath or Press start, if not both of them. I think the defence is an interesting one because, we talked about Amy Turner earlier, and it's a well-known fact that she can't play 3 games in a week. So that could be a difficult one if, Honor and Lotta still aren't available. we know that Haley can play right back if need be. So, because of the Amy situation in the last couple of games, we could perhaps see Haley move back into the defence. Hopefully either Lotta or Honor will be available. And if they are, I think we will see one of them come back in with Kirsty Smith on the other flank.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think you got to play the players in form, haven't you, as well? And Hansen is in form. I know none of the players had a great game against Liverpool, but okay, let's put that one to bed, because every other game she's been fantastic, and so is Ella Toon. Jackie Groner was named in the Player of the Week, wasn't she, last week? But was the actual Player of the Week from Barclays, I believe. That's 2 United players in 3 weeks now. I think Honor.
Kirsty Hansen is also. I think she was nominated for the sort of official WSL Player of the Month, which I think is a real testament to how well he played. I know Brown Knight saying there, I disagree with Ella Toon, though. She needs to be rested. Maybe she does. I mean, if I'm right and Haley does move to the defence and, Katie comes in, we might see, Tooney rested. John Riley. If Honor or Loster are fit, then Kirsty Smith is right back and the other left back. Yeah, completely agree with that. I think, we've seen already with Honor that she's got a really good link up going with Leah Galton. So, if they both start, then I think we'll probably most likely see Honor on the left, although she's more naturally a right back. But I think we will want to keep that link up going if it's at all possible. Yeah,
I agree. It's just occurred to me. I was comparing this season to last season. We played Tottenham in the 4th game last season, didn't we? Because it was we had no points after the first 2 games. Then we played Liverpool and Tottenham. So I'm just comparing us to how we're doing compared to last season. If we do win Tottenham like we did on the 4th game last season, as you say, that's 10 points out of 12 compared to the 6 points that we had last season. Obviously, City aren't playing brilliantly. We've got to be making our rivals at least look at us, even if they still are favourites. They would still be looking at us thinking, you know what, Man United's still here, and December, if we're still 2nd, 3rd or 4th, they'll still be saying it. And then all of a sudden, maybe they will start thinking to themselves, hang about here now. They're here to stay, and they're here for this season as well. None of this next season. It's this season. What are your thoughts? I mean, can you see us staying level with the top 3 right the way through the season?
I think it's possible. I mean, you mentioned last season. I mean, it was our first ever season in the top 5, and our first 2 games were City and Arsenal. So I think that was always going to be difficult. And when I looked at the fixtures for this season, when United actually tweeted the right fixture list, I think most people would probably have seen a point against Chelsea as a bonus, in all honesty. But then I looked at the sort of 4 or 5 games after that and thinking we've got a chance to go on a real run here. After Spurs, we've got West Ham. Obviously, last season that one didn't go so well. But you would think that we've got a chance of getting 4 wins. And the other thing I noticed looking at the fixture list for this weekend is that Chelsea and City are actually playing each other. And at the moment we're level on points with both of them. All 3 of us have got 7 points from the 3 games, so at least one of those 2 will drop points. So I think if we win against Spurs on Saturday, we've then got West Ham the following weekend before another international break. I think if we can go into that international break at the end of this month with 4 wins and a draw from 5 games, that will put us in a fantastic position. However the other games work out will be how it works out, but we would certainly be right up there. And of course, then we're playing both Arsenal and Man City in November, so we've got a real chance then to, get ourselves in amongst it. And I think you're right. I think if we did go into that Arsenal game, with 13 points from 5 games, I think Arsenal would probably look at that and think, hang on a minute, they're a real threat here. I mean, I was actually at the home game against Arsenal last season, and for context, Arsenal were the defending champions. At the time, it was only the 89th minute that they ended up getting a winner. So, they found it difficult to break down then when we only had one game's experience in the top flight. So, yeah, I think we've definitely got a chance of, competing for that top 3 spot. I said at the start of the season, I think if we could consolidate 4, but be closer to the top 3, I think that would be a good season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and look, we are coming towards the end of the show, but we have got a couple of people coming in. Thank you to everybody who's joining in. Thank you very much for coming across. So obviously, just in a bit of summary, in case you are coming in late, Preston Heath outsold any men's shirts when they signed. Absolutely brilliant there. It just goes to show how much of a fan base they're bringing across from America. A great start to the season for the women's team in the WSL. Fantastic draw on the opening day against Chelsea, 5-2 win against Birmingham, 3-0 win against Brighton, and then all of a sudden, bit of a shocker against Liverpool. But it is a Conti Cup; it's got no bearing on the WSL. It just makes it 10 times harder now because we'll need to win City and Everton in the next rounds. Tottenham, obviously, I'm confident. I don't think that that result against Liverpool will impact us in a negative way. I do think that we'll come out guns blazing, and I can see us, as you say, potentially getting that top spot going into Sunday. How amazing will that be? Look, so we've been going for 57 minutes. Matt, I think you need to talk a bit about your channel and what people can see on there, because it's not just about Man United, is it? You do have your Monday nights where you talk about WSL as a whole.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to that United family. I don't know whether it's Carl or Emma that's on, but definitely check them out. Absolutely fantastic comment. You can also see Emma on the Ladies in Red on Hedgerow Treatment as well. Definitely check those guys out. As you say, I do my own channel. I do match previews on a Friday. So tomorrow I'll be uploading my own preview for the Spurs game, go into a bit more detail. And then normally on a Sunday, I'll do my match review, but that will be on the Saturday today. Well, obviously, I was playing on Saturday. And on a Monday night, I do a sort of weekly roundup of all the week's WSL games. And during international breaks, I'll cover the Lionesses as well. So quite varied women's football content on there. If you follow me on Twitter at Matt_Johnson_89, my latest upload will always be in my pin tweet.
Excellent, yeah. And just before we go, obviously, Matt is one of the first people that I actually started interacting with on Twitter when I joined back in about May last year. Natalie retweets absolutely everything. She's
escaping that.
So Natalie, I think, was the first person that I saw, and then obviously I saw yourself and Rodney and Ben, and then obviously you start out and branching out. So I think what you've done, Matt, is obviously you got me involved. I remember the first time that I met you, Matt, at the stadium. I recognised you because of YouTube. I'm like, I know you from YouTube, and I went over and introduced myself to you. And
I remember I was in the concourse to LSV, and you came up to me like, I'll see your channel.
Yeah.
Strange. So even now, I'm 55 subscribers, but it's a small channel. It kind of took me by surprise. Someone actually recognised from YouTube. Like, wow, people actually watch my stuff.
I just think that's the wonders of social media. And if you want to join the Barmy Army or come to a women's game, there's no harm in just speaking to us on Twitter first. And obviously now YouTube's getting bigger for the women's team. And on that, you know, you've got the Barmy Army every Wednesday, a podcast every Wednesday. You've got yourself. I've got my own channel now. It's not very big, but I like to do previews and reviews and talk about the under-23s and the men's team as well. And obviously now this channel, thank you to Ben again for allowing us to have an hour on here with a bit of a weekly roundup or whatever you want to call it. And we've got some real knowledgeable guests on here. We've had obviously Nats on pretty much every week. Amber, really knowledgeable. Ben, obviously a huge Man United fan, men's and women's team. We had Matt Crane on here, who knows the players from the past, you know, before there was even at Man United or when there was in the academy. And yourself, a huge women's fan and a huge Man United fan. And all I want to do is just kind of give other Man United fans the opportunity to watch or listen to talk about Man United women's team. There's not much out there. You know, when I was trying to learn about the game about 15 to 18 months ago, there's hardly anything. There was the odd channel, there was the odd video that Natalie used to make, and that was it. And then gradually I'll see yourself and I see everybody else. So on that note, you know, everyone who's been in the comments, anybody who watches this afterwards or who wants to follow me or Matt on Twitter or the Barmy Army, please do. Barmy Army MUWFC. Matt shouted out his channel. You can see mine just somewhere here. Please get in touch and hopefully we can get to some games and you can all come and join us as well. Thank you for coming on, Matt. Would you like to come on again sometime soon? Yeah, go on, Matt.
Anyone watching? Yeah, definitely. I just doesn't know much about the women's team. Just wants to know a bit more. You know, by all means, you know, feel free to talk to any of us on Twitter. And, you know, I was happy to, you know, talk to more people. You know, get more people involved.
Excellent. Look, sorry about the bad connection today, guys. I think Matt's had a bit of problems. I think even myself at one point lost connection. Not much we can do about that, I'm afraid. I don't usually have internet problems, but thank you again for everybody for joining. Please subscribe to this channel. Obviously, Matt, myself, and the Barmy Army. Smash a like. Any last words from yourself there, Matt?
No, I think we've pretty much covered. I mean, yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, you know, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Matt, and hopefully we'll get you back on next month sometime and talk about how well we're doing and the fact that we're top of the league and got through to the Cup next month. You never know. You never know, mate. Yeah. Thank you again, and thank you to everybody who's joined in tonight. Thank you. No.